Welcome to Midwest Dairy's Consumer Insights webinar. We are so delighted that you could join us as we explore consumers' perceptions around sustainability that we believe are driving dairy product innovation. I am Maureen Windish, Midwest Dairy's Senior Manager of Insights and Analytics. And as you know or may know, Midwest Dairy partners with a wide variety of premier market research firms. Today's webinar will be led by Tom Verheil. He is VP of Strategic Insights North America for Netherlands-based Innova Market Insights. He has over 20 years of experience in packaged goods reporting and analytics. He is based in Fairport, New York, and he is a new product marketing expert and has been quoted in Bloomberg, Ad Age, The Wall Street Journal, and NPR. Tom has given presentations on new product trends at conferences globally and has a bachelor's degree in marketing from St. Bonaventure University and an MBA from State University of New York at Buffalo. I invite you to ask questions through the Q&A feature, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. And then after the webinar, you will be sent a link to the presentation as well as a recording. So we will go ahead and get started. Take it away, Tom.
All right, thanks for that great introduction, Maureen. Again, my name is Tom Verheil. I'm the VP of Strategic Insights North America for Innova Market Insights, and I'm going to be guiding you through today's webinar that's going to take a look at consumer attitudes and behaviors on sustainability with a focus on dairies. So we're going to look at a lot of pertinent information here, a lot of innovative products, survey results from various Innova Market Insights surveys from around the world. And we're going to have kind of a great look at this very timely topic, which is sustainability. So I wanted to give you a little bit of information about Innova Market Insights before we get too deep into today's webinar. Innova is a Netherlands-based market research company that's been in business now for 30 years. Believe it or not, this is our 30th anniversary. We're best known as the publisher of the Innova New Products Database that's tracking the launch of over 350,000 new packaged food, beverage, and supplement products a year from over 90 countries. We also publish over 1,000 reports a year and conduct 11 consumer surveys. And you're going to see a lot of that consumer survey information today, as well as some great examples of cutting-edge new product innovation when it comes to sustainability and when it comes to dairy. So we have people located all over the world. And again, I'm based in Fairport, New York. Now, each year, Innova Market Insights announces our top 10 trends of the year. The announcement usually takes place in November, right around Election Day, hopefully after Election Day this year. But in 2024, we've announced our number one trend for the year is a trend we call ingredients taking the spotlight. Now, the number two trend that's outlined in orange here, called nurturing nature, is a trend that really kind of touches on some of the major concepts behind sustainability. And you can see those kind of outlined in orange. Nature protection. We're going to talk quite a bit about nature protection. Going beyond sustainability, what are some of the steps that companies and consumers are taking? Then we'll look at healing the planet. That's also a key concept that consumers are very fond of, and so on. So this, again, we call this internally our trend wheel. Now, another thing we do here at Innova that's kind of interesting is we actually have a trends team, and that trends team is geared toward looking at trends in the marketplace. We call them megatrends that have the potential to shape and guide markets for the next 3 to 5 years, maybe even 10 years. So on the far left column there, you can see some long-term trends that are influencing consumer behavior. The increase in the cost of living, certainly inflation is a big deal. More focus on health and healthy lifestyle. You see that in the reduction of alcoholic beverage consumption and more. But the one we have outlined here is called the health of the planet, and that directly references sustainability because consumers are concerned and interested in doing what they can to lessen their environmental impact. And we'll see some examples of that as we go through today's presentation. Now, sustainability is something that's been around for an awful long time. We wanted with this slide to kind of guide you through how the concept of sustainability has changed over the years. Now, organic and the organic certification, this is something that's been around actually a lot earlier than 2019. It's probably been around maybe 30 years, maybe 40 years. But that was kind of sustainability 1.0. A lot of companies coming up with the organic products. We're going to feature some in today's webinar and more. More recently, we've seen the concept of sustainability become, there's more specifics involved. Traceability. Consumers want to know where products are coming from, and product makers are providing that transparency to consumers. Animal welfare. That's a huge topic. We're going to deep dive that a little bit later in today's webinar. Provenance. Consumers really care about where products are made and how they're made. You see the use of real California milk. Now, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, it would be quite odd for national brands in many cases to talk about where their ingredients come from, what state they come from, the region, and so on. But today, you're seeing a lot more of that behavior. And finally, farming. You're seeing companies talk a lot more about the details involved with farming. Now, one of the topics we'll touch on when it comes to farming is regenerative agriculture. That's become a huge and trending theme in sustainability. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how innovation is changing around that concept and what that is all about. So let's take a look at the current state of sustainability. And like I indicated earlier, we're going to feature quite a bit of consumer survey information from Innova Market Insights. All right, so we're looking at some of that information here. Now, the good news when it comes to sustainability is that roughly half of Americans say that their food and beverage choices reflect their values and their beliefs. And one of those key beliefs is around sustainability. You can see the different, the spread here of the survey results. And those consumers that don't necessarily agree with that statement, a lot of them are neutral about the concept. So it could just be a case that they're not up to speed on the concepts behind sustainability, and maybe there can be more consumer education in this area. Now, each year, Innova Market Insights runs our trend survey in anticipation of announcing our top 10 trends for the following year. You're looking at the results here from the Innova Trend Survey 2023, that 28% figure there. That represents the percentage of Americans that said health of the planet is the #1 concern they have. And there are about probably 8 other choices they could select for this question. Personal health. During COVID-19, that became the #1 concern, but clearly consumers are concerned about the health of the planet. Certainly big issues, climate change, carbon emissions, things of that nature, and more. Now, when it comes to sustainability claims, it is interesting to see how different generations feel about the topic. So we're looking at the overall percentage of American consumers, and this comes from an annual packaging survey that we do here at Innova. That survey is an 11-country survey. We're looking at the responses just for American consumers. 46% say that they always pay attention to sustainability claims on product packaging. But look at how it changes by generation. The youngest generations, Gen Z is roughly college age. Millennials, a little bit older than college age. They're starting to begin families, and they're moving into the sweet spot of their careers and so on. Majority of them are paying attention to these claims. Not so much for Gen X and baby boomers. So there definitely is a kind of a bias here toward younger consumers caring more about some of these sustainability issues. Now, talking about sustainability packaging and noting these claims, we have a really great product example here from Horizon Organic. Now, if you've been to the Expo West trade show in Anaheim, this company's probably exhibited there for 20, 30 years, something like that. But look at the detail they get into when you turn the milk carton around. They're talking about pasture-raised cows, and they're giving you some specifics here, including no prohibited pesticides. So that's a new phrase that you don't see all that often. Pasture raised. If you look at the fine print on the carton, the cows are spending 120 days in the pasture. So that matters to consumers. And when they're in the pasture, they're eating organic and non-GMO inputs. And certainly in the barn, that feed is non-GMO and so on. This is a family farm type organization. They're also noting that only about 7% of fluid milk in the United States is USDA certified organic. And then finally, they're talking about caring for the earth, not using prohibited pesticides. And they're also advertising one of the trending certification claims. All right, this is the Certified B Corporation. The B in Certified B Corporation means benefit. So they've been certified as a benefit corporation. To get this certification, a company has to demonstrate that they're acting to benefit all concerned parties. So it's not just the shareholders, it's also the larger community at large. And they've been able to achieve that particular certification. So that's something we're seeing a lot more of these days. Now, talking about values, this is something that really does matter to consumers: honesty and transparency. All right, so roughly half of consumers in the US say that this is the most important value related to food. You have a good example of a product launch that's providing transparency at a level that is somewhat unusual in the packaged food industry. The Crystal Farms brand is noting that the dairy inputs here come from Midwest dairy farms. We saw earlier in one of the slides there, real California milk. So this is all about provenance and telling consumers more about where these great ingredients are coming from. Now, the other call out and the other question here is kind of an interesting one. It comes from our Innova Lifestyles and Attitudes survey. We run that survey each year. It's an 11-country survey. We're looking at the US response. About 14% of consumers, and that's a little bit low compared to the global response, say that they support social and ethical causes or seek out products with traceable origins. And that could change in the future because there is new legislation globally that will require sellers and makers and producers of certain commodities to demonstrate that their products are raised on land that is not affected by forest degradation and so on. So let's take a deeper dive into how sustainability is playing out for dairy products. And again, we'll look at some great new product innovations here that come from the Innova New Products database. So we saw earlier on that there really was a bias there for consumers. I'm sorry, let me go back. We saw kind of a bias early on where consumers, especially Generation Z and millennial consumers, were much more likely to pay attention to sustainability claims on product packaging. Now, the question here is a little bit different, came from our 2023 Trends survey. We asked consumers, we asked them to put on their new product development hats. So they're the ones that are calling the shots. They're like the CEO of the company. And we're asking them what factors should drive the development of new products. And we're asking specifically about environmental factors. You're seeing that roughly 20% of American consumers say that these factors, including sustainability and waste reduction, should drive the development of new products. And notice there's not a lot of difference between the generations here. There's somewhat more of a consensus here than what we saw earlier. So this is a key theme, again, a key theme for Innova Market Insights. We talked earlier about nature protection. I mean, that's a great theme, but what does it mean? So we thought it would be fun to ask consumers what they think nature protection means. So these are the different elements of nature protection that we ask consumers about. You can see the call out there for animal protection, and that's something that really matters a lot to consumers. So it's about animal protection, forest protection, reducing water pollution, air pollution, protecting the ocean, benefiting biodiversity. Sustainable farming is something we'll touch on in a little bit, and also reducing the carbon footprint. Now you see that 1 in 3 claims, so about a third of American consumers are looking for some sort of an animal welfare claim on product packaging. So that's something that you're seeing here with the butter product that's imported from Ireland. If you take a close look at the product, this is kind of interesting. The cows in Ireland must love being out on pasture, 250 days on pasture. So if you've ever been to Ireland, it rains a lot. I'm sure that's great for the grass. And the animal welfare approved claim is coming from an organization called A Greener World. That's what AGW is. And according to them, this is one of the top 5 fastest growing types of third-party claims in the marketplace. So they are really looking at the details for each operation before they provide this seal of approval to some degree. So when it comes to animal cruelty, this is very much an issue that matters to consumers, at least preventing it. You see the 58% figure. It's hard to get 58% of consumers to agree about anything, but 58% of Americans say that they're willing to pay extra for food and beverage products that are devoted to solving animal cruelty issues. So this is certainly a key concern for those consumers. Now, the product on the right, another great example of how a company is incorporating some of these sustainability concerns into their product. Zeal Creamery is the name of the brand for this product. The cows are apparently free range. You can see from the call out here that they're walking 10,000 steps a day. Sounds like a lot. And they have room to roam. And again, they have that animal welfare approved seal. Some other things there, the product inputs come from a single farm. That's kind of an unusual call out. And the product is pasture raised. And that's something you're seeing a lot more interest around, although sometimes specifics may not be offered there. So the touch phrase there is happy calves and cows mean happy milk, although it may be hard to measure that. So something that may be a little bit easier to measure are some of the sustainability claims made for the Clover Sonoma product you see here from Clover Dairy. And if you look at this, this is maybe one of the best all-time examples of sustainability when it comes to packaging and more. The carton itself is 96% renewable, and it's the first dairy, according to them, in the US to switch to a plant-based carton. So feather in their cap. The dairy was they're also claiming to be the first to be American Humane certified. And that's a certification symbol that we've seen quite a bit in the industry. If you go to any of the natural product shows, you're going to see that out there. So that's something that's interesting. But look at the specifics pertaining to that certification program. Zero tolerance for animal abuse, a safe environment for each animal, annual farm audits. So they're really making sure that farms are doing what they say they're supposed to be doing. Now, the other note here is just like we saw earlier with the Horizon Organic product, Clover is a certified B corporation and a growing movement to use business as a force for good. That's kind of the phrase they're using there to announce that. So consumers do care more today about how foods are farmed. And you see the figure here, and this survey information comes from the Innova Trend Survey 2023. So over 50% of American consumers say they're paying more attention to the sourcing of ingredients in food now than in the past. Okay, so that's certainly one reason why Innova announced that made ingredients and where they're coming from our top trend of the year. Over 50% of consumers also prefer products that talk about the benefits of how these particular ingredients are created and raised and so on. And that's good news for Organic Valley, where the dairy ingredients are ethically sourced from small family farms. They have all kinds of details regarding that. The other product there, I thought this was a very interesting product example, the Darigold example. We've been tracking clean label claims here at Innova for probably decades, and so on. But it's quite unusual to see a company put on the front of the pack that the product contains only 5 simple ingredients. So that's a very specific claim that kind of boxes the company in to some degree, but it is an indication that not only is there transparency there, but they're really giving consumers a very specific claim, something they can sink their teeth into. So to kind of build on this concept of how sustainability is playing out in the dairy industry, you can definitely see consumer preferences toward, oh, I'm sorry about that. Let me go back a minute. You're seeing a preference toward localization, and that 51% figure represents, again, coming from the newer trend survey, the 2024 Innova Trend Survey, the fact that a majority of American consumers see locally produced or sourced food as an important claim to them. And this is something that also during COVID-19 is something that blossomed as consumers wanted to keep local businesses in business during that time. And it also has become a marker of quality. So those things are definitely aiding innovation in locally produced products. And you see this playing out in so many industries. It's not just the dairy industry. If you look at the craft beer industry, it's remarkable to see how many breweries there are out there that are local. So that's something that's really exploded. But back to the farm, a good example here, this particular milkshake product from Alexandria Family Farm is said to offer farm to fridge fresh. And freshness is often the top feature, top benefit that consumers are seeking when it comes to food and beverage products. So another part of this trend is dairies kind of going front of pack and putting the claims out there that really kind of telegraph sustainability. You see it with the Land O'Lakes product. If you do the math, the cooperative has been in business for over 100 years, founded in 1921. The Tillamook product, also farmer owned on the West Coast. And notice the claim being made for artificial growth hormones. Now there's some text that's cut off there. The FDA has stated that no, and that's just to fill you in on what that's all about, that there's no safety difference between products that have artificial growth hormones and those that do not. But clearly, they're trying to steer clear of this particular somewhat controversial production aid. So consumers, what do they care about when it comes to farming practices? That's essentially the thrust of the slide we're looking at here. And we mentioned early on that we would be doing more of a deep dive into regenerative farming. So in our most recent trend survey in 2024, we asked consumers their perceptions pertaining to a number of innovative farming practices. These are the top 3 farming practices that American consumers kind of identified. Now, the big news here, regenerative farming is number 1, but the big news is that between the 2023 survey and the 2024 survey is there was a 5 percentage point difference in increase in the percentage of American consumers that have a positive perception of regenerative farming. And clearly that could be because of innovations like you see here, the probiotic kefir product that has the regenerative organic certified sustainability claim right on the product package. So we're beginning to see these certification schemes begin to show up on product packaging, and that certainly is the case here. There's also some other ones. The certified humane has been around a little bit longer, and so on and so forth. So getting a little bit deeper into regenerative agriculture, this is something that I mentioned that Innova does our top 10 trends each year. We've got call-outs here for trends for years in the past that kind of have some sort of a linkage with regenerative agriculture. You can see in 2020, storytelling, transparency triumphs in 2021. Oddly enough, that was in the middle of COVID-19. Farming the future in 2023, and nurturing nature this year. But the takeaway, the big takeaway here is that innovation in products that are talking about regenerative agriculture is really growing rapidly. That 41% figure represents the growth in new products and reformulated products launched in the United States between 2021 and 2023 that make some sort of regenerative agriculture related claims. So that's definitely something that's on the rise. Now, one of the questions here, how many consumers actually know what regenerative agriculture means? I suspect very few. So Painterland Sisters, the brand, has taken the extra step, which is highly appreciated, of actually telling consumers what it means, to them at least. It means, again, happy animals and farmers, but more importantly, healthy soil. That's probably the main thrust of what regenerative agriculture is all about. Clean water and clean air are also benefits for this type of agriculture. Now, storytelling is something that, again, Innova is pretty keen about the whole concept. That was one of our top 10 trends not too long ago, our #1 trend. But you can see that about a third of consumers really want to get into deep into the weeds and look at how products, what's their story? Are they providing us a little bit more information on the product packaging and more? The two examples you see here represent a couple of different approaches to that represent a couple of recent top 10 trends. The product on the left is showing a trend, one of our top 10 trends in 2023, positively imperfect. It sounds like an oxymoron, but it is not. And this is all about kind of a special type of transparency. And this is about telling consumers, letting them in on the struggle. And in the case of the Kaiku product, the struggle is trying to achieve a 100% plant-based package. They are not able to do that. You can see the top cap there. It's made out of plastic and so on. But we found through our surveys that consumers actually have more trust of a company that's honest about their struggles and challenges than a company that just tries to brush it aside. So waste reduction is another key area when it comes to sustainability. And actually, this is kind of a win-win-win scenario. The question, and this is from our Trend Survey 2023, I'm taking more actions too. So American consumers are taking more actions to minimize food waste. And this is kind of a no-brainer. If you're wasting less food, you're saving money. You're also helping save the planet. A lot of food is wasted. If you look at some of the percentages out there, it could be as much as a quarter to a third of all food in production ends up getting wasted. The other win here is that when that food hits a landfill, it often decomposes and creates chemicals and certain materials that can be really a problem for the atmosphere. When food goes into a landfill, as it decomposes, it can give off methane, and methane is a very toxic greenhouse gas. So storytelling, it's kind of interesting to see a couple of other really great examples of how companies marketing dairy products and more are using the power of storytelling to communicate with consumers. The product on the left is probably the more innovative of the two approaches. Super Frau, interesting brand name for the product, but this is an upcycled fizzy whey drink. It may be the first upcycled whey fizzy whey drink that we've ever seen, certainly the first with hibiscus orange flavor. But the key here is that it's using upcycled whey. Now you can see the certification logo there for Upcycle Certified. This logo came into existence maybe 5 years ago or so, and we're definitely seeing more uptake in this. And they're talking about how using this ingredient certainly helps save the planet. And the beverage itself is kind of strange. It's an electrolyte, sort of a sports drink, an energy drink. So I don't quite get that vibe from it, but it's interesting. The Stonyfield product is also kind of interesting because they're talking about the removal of pesticides from kids' play areas. So I had no idea that 65% of fields are sprayed with harmful pesticides. So they've got an effort there to try to reduce that number to 0. Now, transparency is something that consumers care a lot about, but how do they feel with relation to the government and companies being transparent in their communication efforts? So you can see the 57% figure, believe it or not. The answer to both survey questions came out the same. 57% of American consumers want to see more straightforward communication about sustainability on product packages. And that same percentage of consumers also wants stricter rules from the government. And you can see how some companies are trying to offer this information. The Too Good product, which is kind of an interesting play on words. The product only has 2 grams of sugar. I believe this is a Danone product. They were one of the largest companies to receive the Certified B Corporation certification. So they're telling you all about that as they try to set their own rules. And talking about some of the issues that matter to consumers, again, kind of a look at how the different generations of Americans feel about specific carbon-related claims as we segue into a brief discussion of carbon within the concept of sustainability. So you can see how these different claims kind of resonate with consumers. We're asking how these claims influence purchase decisions for food and beverage products. Climate positive, kind of a nice sounding claim, less CO2 carbon dioxide emissions, so that's much more specific, and carbon neutral, something that's really caught on. A lot of companies are talking about carbon neutrality. A lot of governments are talking about carbon neutrality. But as we'll see at the very end of today's webinar, this has become a very controversial topic. And again, look at the generations here. They kind of play out in a similar fashion to what we saw with sustainable packaging early on. Younger generations, a little bit more wired in and paying attention to these types of claims, influencing their behavior. So looking at sustainability, carbon is something that, I mean, we hear about it so much these days. Carbon emissions, you can see it's pretty much almost getting up near half of American consumers say that carbon emissions are associated with a product that's sustainable. It's kind of a metric that they can use to determine if the product really is sustainable. And one brand has taken that to heart, the Neutral brand, all right? So the Neutral brand of fluid milk is carbon neutral from grass to glass, according to the company here. And they're actually telling you how many pounds of carbon offset you're getting with each package purchased here. Another thing that's interesting about this one, it is third-party certified to be carbon neutral, so by SCS Global Services. So that's kind of a interesting for this claim because a lot of companies are throwing that around there without necessarily having that certification of the claim by a third party. So what about the future of sustainability? What are we seeing there and what do we expect to see? Well, we're seeing business kind of stepping up to the plate and maybe taking a more active role in some of the key areas that we identified earlier. You see the numbers here. 1 in 4 American consumers are saying that they'd like to see companies stepping forward and helping the environment when it comes to nature protection. Now, what is nature protection? We provided about 8 or 9 different definitions for it. Certainly, caring for the soil and soil protection and farming are all part of that. And you can see how that's playing out for the A2 product here. That's again certified regenerative by the AGW, which is the same operation that certified some of the dairy products we saw earlier. The nice thing here is they actually tell you a little bit more about what regenerative agriculture really is. And one of the key concepts there is no-till farming, no-till planting. All right. No-till planting is not brand new. It's been around for a long time, but certainly it is something that the farm community is talking more about these days. Increasing biodiversity and building healthier soil, of course, are key concepts for regenerative agriculture. And then communicating to consumers, you can see that 1 in 5 figure. So across all generations, consumers want to see sustainability information that's at their fingertips. And that could be providing website information. It can mean providing a QR code so a consumer can scan it with their smartphone and go right to a company's website to see what their efforts are. And in fact, that's what the example we're referencing here, it's not a dairy example, by the way, but I think it's a fruit beverage line. So they are using that QR code to kind of engage consumers and talk about how sustainable their product is. And we probably can't get away from a presentation without talking about artificial intelligence, the soon-to-be word of the year, if I was voting. On the right-hand side, you can see that companies are finding interesting and new ways to leverage artificial intelligence. And it's being used here for a cheese yield optimization program. So we think that the number of applications for artificial intelligence is something that's really going to take off as industry really figures out how to leverage this technology for the future. And just one word of note here, the call out for that, that was highlighted in an article from Food Ingredients First. That's a website, by the way, that's from Innova's sister company, CNS Media. So if you want to find out ingredient innovation, you want to dive deeper, you can go to foodingredientsfirst.com. Robotics, that's something that is also changing the game. We are seeing some dairies out there that have come up with robotic milking systems. The one that's featured here, I think, comes from Ireland. I know that there's another one, I think from the Netherlands, where it's the cows can actually determine when they will be milked. So they can kind of wander into their station there and the process begins and so on and so forth. So that's a great thing. The other device there is something else. This is the world's first autonomous machine that can harvest and feed grass to cows. So it kind of looks like a Roomba on steroids. And I would imagine it costs a lot of money, kind of looks like it. But certainly when you're talking about labor issues and trying to find people to do work on farms, this particular contraption can take care of that without human intervention. And then finally, we did allude to this earlier on when it comes to claims like carbon neutral. So the world is changing, and the European Union is trying to take the lead position to fight against what is called greenwashing. All right. So greenwashing means exaggerating environmental and sustainability claims. And you can see if you look at the text here, some of the people behind this effort say there's no such thing as carbon neutral cheese, plastic bottles, and more. So the way this works is that all of the European Union member states have to vote on this before it's ratified. So that could take some time. It's a little bit like herding cats, but once that process is done, we could see some changes in some of the certification logos. So if you look at the logos on the right-hand column, these are logos that may survive a culling of these various claims. Certified B Corporation, USDA Organic, Rainforest Alliance, that's been out there for quite some time, cruelty-free, like no animal testing and things like that. Labels that may get the hook and be removed from the market. Bio, that's simply just organic, 100% organic, 100% sustainable. I'm not quite sure what that means. Earth friendly, I'm not quite sure what that means either, but these are very squishy terms that may be disappearing from product packaging at some point. So to kind of conclude today's webinar, and I want to thank you again for your attendance. It's been a pleasure to talk about the topic of sustainability. These are some of the key findings from Innova Market Insight. First off, values matter. Consumers want to feel good about their purchases. They want to buy from companies they trust. They want to buy products that they're confident deliver the goods for them in a safe manner. They certainly, there's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to trust and transparency. So these are key issues going forward. So companies should also try to find common values with consumers. We saw early on that consumers care a lot about the issue of food waste. So companies are doing whatever they can to cut food waste. That's something you want to let the consumer know about to let them know you're on the same side. Focusing on the how. Consumers want to know how the ingredients in the products that they're purchasing and consuming, how they're raised, and more, how they're grown. That's information that can be used and can persuade consumers. And animal welfare, that is something that really is something that can motivate consumers either way. If you got a company that has an issue in the animal cruelty department, that certainly can be a turnoff. On the other hand, consumers can feel better about companies that take steps there. And finally, youth matters. Younger consumers, we saw early on that they certainly are paying more attention to sustainability claims and so on. Although I should probably note that sustainability claims are probably never going to be the number one reason why a consumer purchases your product. It's more of a supporting reason. It may be a tiebreaker and so on. But these younger consumers are going to become older consumers at some point. They're going to be running everything, and they are your future consumers. So you want to make sure that you're appealing to these younger consumers. So thanks again from here at Innova Market Insights. And if you want to get in touch with us here at Innova, we have a website address there, and we have our own QR code. I mentioned that early on for connective technologies and more. And then finally, here are your contacts for Midwest Dairy. And I want to thank Maureen for the introduction early on, as well as Martha's help in creating and promoting today's event. So it's been a pleasure. And I think that we have some time for questions, I believe. And I'll turn things over to Maureen.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Tom. So many things going on in this space of sustainability and happening so quickly, and some that may not stick, right? So it is a little challenging to move forward and know exactly what you're supposed to do. So hopefully there's some nuggets in here that our processors and retailers can leverage in their portfolios. We do have some questions, or actually one for sure, and probably some if you want to come off mic eventually. We don't have to just stick to what's in the Q&A, but one from our Q&A is on slide 10, honesty and transparency are the most important values. That was highlighted on that slide. And I don't know if you would know off the top of your head, but what were the other values that didn't trend as high? So do you have like the second and third?
I think some of the values there, I mean, for most of the survey questions we asked, there could be as many as 10 different responses for them. So 8 or 10 responses. That's something I can certainly look into, but I think other things that might be related there would be like low price or value offerings, kind of coming in with kind of an economic focus. That can certainly be something that as an important value. Other ones there would be maybe a leading edge value, an orientation toward technology and integrating technological change and so on. And we mentioned that toward the end with that reference to artificial intelligence. So I think those would be a couple things, but there certainly are more responses there.
All right, well, because of the mute nature of the webinar, coming off mute is not possible for folks. If you do want to have any more questions answered during this time that we have remaining, feel free to pop that question into the Q&A. We'll give you a second here. And I guess from my perspective, Tom, I know that you just mentioned economics being a factor here, and maybe slowing down this trend in terms of consumers, really buying these products. Are you noticing anything specific in terms of buying trends related to sustainability?
I think that one of the things we've noticed over the past couple of years, and we've been tracking this pretty tightly, is you're seeing a lot more products integrate value-oriented language in their brand and product name of the product. So I think that that's something that has changed. You see it in private label, for instance, where retailers like Target and Walmart are kind of focusing on those areas for their programs and so on. So I think that's one thing that has changed. Certainly the whole area when it comes to value is it's a complicated area. There's been a lot of changing of sizes of products, product downsizing and so on. that consumers are noticing. And obviously legislators are also noticing this, and it's become kind of a hot button area. But that's one of we talked about our mega trends earlier, and that's clearly one of the mega trends we're seeing, and it's influencing other things too. We're seeing here at Innova. One area it is influencing here, I'm just going to look at my notes, is one of our trends there is home-centric living. So consumers that are strapped up economically are consuming more product at home and going out less often, going out to restaurants less often. You're seeing immediate changes there with restaurant chains that are closing locations that are not doing well. Red Lobster, for instance, closed a bunch of restaurants, as well as many others. So those are some things that are changing.
I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, but we are available for questions that might pop into your head at a later date. As you can see, my contact information is here, along with Martha Kemper. She is our VP of Dairy Experience Business Development, and then Mitch Schulte, who is our VP of Ag Affairs. And all of us are available for questions, and I can connect you to Tom if necessary. So thank you so much for your time. There will be a invitation to participate in a survey. We'd love to get your thoughts on the webinar for this particular webinar, as well as content for future webinars. So thank you very much and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.